our guest speaker, Dr. Yushan Yan, who we are very grateful and honored to have join us today. Dr. Yan likes to be called Yushan, so while he is a doctor, he's a humble man. So we will call him Yushan and receive him as such. While there is a lot of talk about hydrogen and hydrogen energy, there's so much that I will tell you I personally don't understand. First, I want to welcome you, Yushan, to join us today and thank you for being here. Yushan is currently in Delaware, and I've shared with you some of his background. You can see more when you look at him. I don't need to go through his background and his esteemed honors that he has, because he will share them with us and you will see his prowess and his understanding of hydrogen from a molecular, a chemical, and from an energetic and from an environmental standpoint. Yushan, welcome and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, to meet this wonderful group of colleagues.
So for us to start, how did this become the area for you to be focusing on of fuel cells and membranes and hydrogen technology? How did it come about?
I started working on hydrogen about 26 years ago when I joined the University of California, Riverside. For those who don't know, Riverside is about 65 miles east of Los Angeles. It's more inland and more desert-like. As a young faculty member, I had to make a decision what I want to do research on. I did my PhD on zeolite membranes. So zeolite is a porous crystal with very uniform molecular sized pores, commonly used for separation and catalysis. It could separate nitrogen and oxygen. These are the two components in air that has a size difference of a fraction of an angstrom. There's a very, very fine molecular sieves. So I decided to continue to work on zeolite, but finding newer applications, no separation, no catalysis, but into aerospace, semiconductors. But I also wanted to do something completely new that I didn't know anything. There's some randomness. I decided to go for fuel cells and hydrogen. And I've been staying with that for my whole career.
Well, you were very early as a pioneer in looking at hydrogen as an energy, and there are many colors, a rainbow of colors of hydrogen. Green hydrogen is for more environmentally sustainable and for looking at renewable energy sources for hydrogen, versus most of the hydrogen that's produced today is either gray or black, which comes from fossil fuels. And I know that you have a deep desire for creating energy in an environmentally responsible and sustainable way. We have scientists here. We also have lay people here. And I know you have the prowess to be able to explain things in both terms. And so can you just talk about green hydrogen and how you see that being a viable source of energy in the future, and what will be the applications, and how will it be used? And it's being used today, but how do you see the future developing for green hydrogen?
As of today, globally, we use about 100 million tons of hydrogen every year. So hydrogen need is not new. There's a lot of hydrogen being produced and used today. And the source of that hydrogen, as Stuart already said, is coming mostly from natural gas. So you reform natural gas with water. You need water to do it, and to turn natural gas into hydrogen. And the downside of this process is emitting about 10 kilograms of CO2, carbon dioxide, to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen. So this is a very, very polluting process, because CO2 is a greenhouse gas. The idea of green hydrogen is to change the process completely. So we use water as a source of the hydrogen, but we use electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And that electricity is from solar and wind, just so that the whole process is cleaner. In terms of application, the green hydrogen applications today are all reasonable targets for green hydrogen. For example, we use a lot of green hydrogen to synthesize ammonia. And then from there, we make fertilizers. So that's a big application. Another one is chemical synthesis like methanol, which is a precursor to many other chemicals. And we use quite a bit of hydrogen in the petroleum refining process to produce gasoline or diesel, kerosene, those fuels we're using today. So we could use green hydrogen to replace the gray hydrogen for these applications. And we could have newer applications. For example, we could use hydrogen to in fuel cells to decarbonize the heavy duty commercial transportation like long haul trucks. So that's a possibility. And we could do shipping by converting green hydrogen to green ammonia or green methanol. And we could use green hydrogen as a way to store massive amount of electricity across seasons, so that our electrical grid can be fully decarbonized. So these are the applications, new and old, and why we want to do green hydrogen, because it's going to help to decarbonize many sectors of our economy.
Thank you for that explanation, Yushan. So the question comes to, what is the efficiency and how much energy does it take to produce green hydrogen, and how can this become more and more efficient? And you may want to talk about your company, Versogen, and the application that you have and the technology that you're developing with Versogen that you think has really great potential for being one of our key energy sources in the future.
Yeah, this is a great question. In terms of efficiency, this needs to be discussed in the context of application and production together. So let's say we use this electrolysis process using renewable electricity to produce hydrogen. At a good production rate, we can get it done with 80% of efficiency. And if the final application is ammonia synthesis, as an example, and then that's it, it's 80%, 70% efficiency. But if we want to turn the hydrogen back to electricity for heavy-duty transportation application or for grid energy storage application, and then we have to return the hydrogen back to electricity. And let's say we use fuel cell that has a efficiency of 60-some percentage. And then in that case, the round-trip efficiency is becoming very important. So the total will be 40%. And that sounds low, but we can delve into that to justify even that low efficiency may still allow us to do a meaningful economic project. But coming back to the efficiency, there's another factor. You can always choose to operate the electrolyzer at a higher efficiency by choosing the current density at a lower level. That means your hydrogen production rate will be smaller. So this is an optimization we'll have to do if the electricity is very, very expensive, dominating the hydrogen cost by a large margin. You may want to choose low current density, low production rate to reduce the operating cost. But now, if the production rate is lower, you're going to need a bigger stack to make a target amount of hydrogen. That means your capital cost is going to get higher. So there is a It's not a fixed answer. It's a holistic answer we need to have in terms of reducing the cost of hydrogen. And Stuart mentioned that I am the founder and CEO of a startup company here in Newark, Delaware, Versogen. And the company is dedicated to commercialize ion exchange membranes, or AEM-based electrolyzer stacks. The key target here is to reduce the hydrogen cost so that hydrogen can find more applications.
But can you just explain to us as laymen today, with our energy that we're getting, whether it's from electric, hydro, even possibly nuclear, what are the difference of costs from economics, but then there's the carbon side or the environmental side as well? Can you just bring all those together to share that, please?
Of course, of course. If you look at the water splitting, the electrolysis process as of today, the electricity cost is huge portion of the total hydrogen cost. In that sense, hydro is good. Hydro tend to be low cost.
Hydropower.
Yeah, but hydropower has limited total capacity. The prospect of growth is limited. We're going to need, thousands of gigawatts of power. If you look at nuclear tend to be expensive. And if we are looking for new electricity, they tend to be slow to become online. But the benefit of nuclear is this is a 24/7 available power. And that means you can have your electrolyzer working 24/7. So you can afford a little bit more expensive capital on the equipment side. And then if you look at solar and wind, this is really the future because it has the ability to fulfill the capacity, and it is clean, and the cost is coming down very dramatically, like every year. But wind and solar are not available 24/7. What that means is if you have a electrolyzer coupled to wind and solar directly, your capacity factor, meaning the percentage of your equipment working, is lower. And that requires you to have a low capital cost machine so that you can tolerate the downtime. And that's where Versogen's products is coming in. AEM, I believe, is going to offer the lowest cost electrolyzer stack. And in that sense, that will allow us to chase the low cost electricity. And by the way, the solar and wind electricity, there is a lot of curtailment, meaning you may have zero cost electricity, you may have negative cost electricity, but if you don't have a low cost electrolyzer, you can't chase these low cost electricity.
Well, and as you say, there are these many variables that are involved, and one of the keys for hydrogen and green hydrogen is the carbon reduction. And while there isn't maybe a way to evaluate what is the cost of that, we all know that we've got a challenge on our planet today to reduce our carbon dioxide levels. For hydrogen to be a solution for that, there are carbon credits, which are valuable and that are useful. Do you see a future where governments will either put a price on the carbon reduction and give value for that? How do you see the future developing for that, so you can equate these green technologies with black technologies?
Yeah, I think predicting government policies is hard. What I would rephrase the question, I can tell you what I wish for.
Please.
And whether that can be done is a lot of guessing work. The new legislation in terms of giving tax credit for clean hydrogen, if you reduce the carbon emission to a very low level at different tiers, you get the tax credit. This would allow the hydrogen cost to come down in the short term, allow the technology to scale, and that would lower the cost of hydrogen. So for the long term, you don't need a subsidy, you get lower cost. So this is one end of the approach. It's great. And the other side is what you just mentioned in terms of carbon policy. As a scientist, I think many people have said this, and I totally agree. If we really want to reduce the temperature rise to a certain level, we're going to have some policy on that. Carbon tax is a possibility. We probably need to get the price to the right level. We likely need to have that policy globally. But I think of this particular problem, there's no one person, there's no one technology, there's no one company, there's no one country can solve it. Because CO2 coming out of Asia will get to us. You know, it will come over. So if you can't take care of this globally, you can't solve it. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, we need to have carbon policies in terms of credit or tax, and that needs to be done globally.
Warms my heart for you to hear to talk about the fact that the unity that's required, because it's all energy and all of our energy is connected everywhere on our planet, just as is our water. We're smart. We are pretty brilliant creatures, and we figure things out, and we are amazingly resilient. And so I think that people like Yushan, who will lead us in this area, and Achim, will be finding these solutions and will be applying them. And we'll see how it all develops. And it's going to require capital. And thankfully, there is a lot of funding happening. And it's happening all over the world. Australia is probably the leader today with hydrogen plants that exist. They have multiple plants that are there. And much of the world is beginning to invest in this as one of these alternative sources of energy. So thank you, Yushan, for your leadership here and your innovation. And you're really caring about doing this, because in the short time I've gotten to know you, I know that you're doing this not just to make money. You're doing this to truly find a solution that will be beneficial for our humanity and for our planet. And that's what's really required.